For today, I'm going to show you how to use the solver function in Excel. So a little background about me. I provide some accounting and bookkeeping services for different businesses. The example that I'm going to be using today is for a fashion apparel manufacturer and e-commerce store, a small manufacturer and e-commerce store. And I'm going to be giving you a brief example of what questions they had regarding their most recent collection that they wanted to make. Basically, the question that they had is, this is the final worksheet that I will be teaching you how to make. Their question was how many units they wanted to make of each different style. But they had a budget of about $4,000 that they wanted to spend. They wanted to make sure they don't make too many pieces of each individual style, and they wanted to make sure that at least they make 6 units of each style because there's 6 different sizes. And the goal is to maximize the profit that is in G9 based on the budget that they have, that is $4,000. As you can see now in the current sheet, I just put 40 units in every single style just to put a number here, but this is over the $4,000 budget. Okay. All right, so we're going to start off with the blank sheet. I already added some information just to make this a little bit simpler. We have a few different columns here. The first column is, which is column B, is the cost of each individual style. Okay, column C, the second one, is the sales price. Now, usually they like to multiply the cost by 2.5, 2.5 times of what it costs them to make. This will normally give them the sales price. But there are some constraints here too. They don't like to price items. If we drag this down and copy it to all the other cells, they don't like to have items that go over $50. As you can see, we have C5 goes over $50 and C8 goes over $50. So I'm going to show you a quick formula that's going to help keep that below $50. What we're going to do is we're going to use the enter a formula, and we're going to use the if function, right? If cell B3 times 2.5 is greater or equal to 50, I want to make sure Excel gives me only $50 and not more. If not, if it's less than $50, then Excel can give me whatever the formula will answer, be 3 times 2.5. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to drag and copy this formula all the way down. And as you can see now, we have only $50 here for cell C5 and cell C8. For the profit per unit column, what we're going to do is we're simply going to create a formula that takes the sales price minus the cost, and that's going to give me the profit. I'm going to also copy and paste this formula all the way down so that we have a profit per unit. Like I said, we're just going to input any number here for the column as far as how many units we're producing, just to have a number to have all of these formulas filled in. Total cost column, which is right here, column F. We're going to create a formula that's going to multiply the units that I'm producing by the total cost per design. So if I produce 40 units of look 1, I spend $675 with 60 cents. I'm going to drag and paste that formula all the way down. I'm going to do a total formula down at the bottom of F, cell F9, which is summing up all of these values so I know how much I'm going to spend for the total production of this collection. Then I'm going to give a column for total profit, which is column G. And this is going to be similar to column F. It's a formula that's going to multiply the units that I'm going to make this time by the profit, which is column D. Hit enter, and this is the total profit. I'm going to drag and paste the formula all the way down. And I'm also going to do a sum formula at the bottom of G, cell G9, so that I know what my total profit is. I'm just going to change the borders here to make it look a little bit more consistent and nicer. Take off the borders and just do a nice solid black border all over it. Now here's the fun part. We are going to use solver, the solver function in Excel, to solve our problem. We want to make sure that this is no more than 40, but higher than 6, and that our budget doesn't go over $4,000 while maximizing our profit, which is cell G9. To start using solver, I go into the data tab, all the way to the right in the analysis group. We click on solver. I already have this here filled in, but I'm going to delete all of these just to show you what we should be doing here. So what I want to do with solver, my objective is to have cell G9 be the maximum it can be. How? By changing column E from E3 through E8, which is all the units. Correct? Okay. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to add the constraints. I want to add these 3 constraints, but I also want to tell Excel that I don't want this to go over to be a full number, an integer. I want to make sure that anything in this column, correct? So we put cell reference is an integer, meaning a whole number. I hit OK. That's my first constraint. I'm going to add another constraint. I want to make sure that anything in this column, cell reference, is always less or equal to what is in this cell, 40. Hit OK. I'm going to add another constraint, really similar. I'm going to select everything in column E, E3 to E8. This time I want to make sure that this is greater than or equal to whatever we have in cell D12, which is the minimum units I want to produce. And then the last constraint is I don't want to go over my budget. So I want to make sure that anything in this cell, cell F9, is always less than or equal to my budget, which is in cell D13 of $4,000. Now I like to use the cell references instead of just typing in a number. For example, instead of saying 4,000, I'll use the cell reference, because this way, if I ever want to change any of these constraints, I can do so and just run the solver function, and it will automatically give me a result for how many units I should produce, versus having to go into the solver and always editing these constraints. I'm gonna hit OK, and now we're gonna run the solver function so it can give us an answer. Takes a few seconds, and once we have this, we just hit OK. And as you can see, Excel has given us an answer. We have the number of units we need to produce in each of these looks to maximize our profit while keeping our budget lower than $4,000. This is a very simple tool and very easy to use, but it can answer very important questions you may have